I blew up both my legs playing softball at 30. That's the intro to my video. Thank you. Indy Streetcar Takeover 2018. Is referred to as the Rover. It was dubbed that from the guys at work when they saw me building it.
The Rover, like Land Rover?
So I brought the frame rails into work to weld them up because they have a chassis plate, and they asked me what I was working on. I told them I was building a tube frame car for the street, and they said, "What are you working on, the Lunar Rover?" And it just kind of stuck.
So what's this based off of? What frame rails you take in?
It's based off my garage floor. I took a 2x4, I spray painted a black box on my garage floor and just used a tape measure and started laying out tubing. That was it.
What subframes you get to connect?
So the suspension and subframes are off an S13. So I bought an S13 with an SR20. That, it sucks, it was kind of a nice car. The body was nice, the frame rails were rotten like most.
I never saw that car.
Most people didn't. I drove it home. I think I drove it one day, and then I took a Sawzall and proceeded to cut the car in half just in front of the firewall. And it's at that moment where you realize you're $3,000 in and you just cut something in half, and now you're worth about 500 bucks in parts. So I had to finish the car.
And you upgraded the suspension. You just didn't put factory suspension on here, did you?
It was at first, I think. I think this is the suspension that came on this car, or it might have been another S13 I had after this.
Yeah.
There is just KYB AGXs with, I think it's Eibach lowering springs. But because the car's so light, it feels like the springs are really stiff.
What control arms are you running?
For control arms, eBay special.
Oh, really?
Bought the kit. And I tell you, they are special because some of them are welded together because the threads are that bad.
Would you consider yourself a cheap ass? You gotta repeat that question.
Me, a cheap ass? Of course. I've been referred to as the only Jewish Mexican. It's always a toss-up between, like, best option and then just pocketbook. Like if I buy something that's even more than like 20 bucks, most people ask me, "Oh, did you dust off some of your money?"
So where do you work then to make that money?
Now I work at the IMS Museum, Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
What do you do there?
I take care of old shit. So they have a collection of cars anywhere from like early 1800s to current. And I essentially try to keep them running or shine them or just whatever they need to do. It's just general maintenance, mechanic, stuff.
So I noticed a lot of parts on these cars are pretty expensive parts, not too much stuff off the shelf.
There's a lot of stuff off the shelf. My interior came off the shelf at Home Depot. It's a piece of plywood. It's not even plywood. It's actually downgraded from that. It's MDF.
What about that turbo?
Turbo is off a GRC rally car. So that's an expensive bit that was getting pitched where I used to work, and it was marked NFG and put in a bin. NFG being no fucking good if you're not in racing. And it still makes boost. It smokes a little bit here and there, but it makes boost. That's all I require from it.
Import?
Yeah.
First import I heard.
I think there's a Honda getting it.
Yeah.
I think that's VTEC we just heard get cracked.
Yeah.
Cracking the tech.
So you said it originally had an S20. What made you go to V8?
One of my friends said I couldn't do it. So built the car because I wanted an aerial atom and can't afford one. Most of us don't have $40,000 for a fucking toy. So I, like most people, didn't have it, but I had enough ambition and a Harbor Freight welder, said fuck it, let's take a shot. So bought the 240, cut it at the firewall, pulled the subframes out of it, threw away the rest of the car. I use 18 inches of the front subframe, or the front factory frame rails that has the pickup points for the front cross member. Everything else I made on the garage floor. So the 240 I bought had a blacktop SR20 in it. So I used all the powertrain the first time I built it. About 500 hours over the course of 4 or 5 months, if I remember correctly. Put it together in its first version of what it is now, I guess. And it was just, it had an Indy Lights radiator, about this, a little bit bigger than a Civic half radiator. Had the SR motor in it, on the stock T25, and it was a fun car to drive.
Yeah.
It was great for the twisties, which is kind of what it was built for. It was built to like, it wasn't built with any purpose other than just being fun. It wasn't built to drag race. It wasn't built to drift. It was just built to be different and fun.
Yeah.
And it was. And honestly, when I put a V8 in it, fucking ruined it.
It ruined it? Would you go back?
Yes. If I could, I would go back, sell the SR like I did, and put a KA in it. Because I'm a KA fanboy. They're cheap-ish, and they take boost very well. They make a lot of torque, and they're simple. They're simple motors, and they make tons of torque and power for what they are.
So what's in the near future for this thing? Is there anything in store? You gotta repeat that question.
All right, what, for new parts?
Yeah.
All right, the new stuff for the car, now that it has the V8, which it had for the first year, or the first half a season it had where the V8 was done, it finished it in July, beginning of August. It had an overheating problem. It had an IndyCar radiator on it, but because of the front mount and no ducting, I couldn't go very far. I had to turn it off quite often. So I put the rear radiator on it. Then the following year, I was able to drive it around, but on factory computer, factory Series 1 injectors, which are known to have issues, replaced a handful and they just kept dying. So that was the second year of the car. This year, one of my buddies, CMJDev.co, fuck that one up, did an ECU for me and got it running, tunes it for me because all that stuff's above my head. So now it's on 1200cc injectors on a EMU Classic, and now it's got a rear mount radiator. So now it runs and drives and it hits boost well. Boost controller just installed. It's still not really fast yet, but once we crank it up and it's actually scary to me, what I'll do over the winter is I'll finish the cage. It's gonna get a bigger turbo on it, like a big turbo on it. And then it's gonna get a GRC rally car front mount intercooler on it, which is typical Honda ruining a shot. And then it's gonna get a GRC front mount, which is about the size of a full-size radiator. It is massive. And most of this is just curb appeal. It'll make maybe 600 horsepower probably is where I'll stop.
Where do you think you're at right now? I've never heard you put a number on it.
Because it's slow. I don't want to put a number on the car, it's slow. It's not much. If you say you got a turbo V8 and you're not making at least like 550, that's ridiculous. It does not make 550. So yeah, I have no idea what it makes. It's not that quick. It spins the tires, but there's no weight back there.
Yeah.
The thing with the SR, I weighed it at work, and we have a what's it called, a chassis scale, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got a scale for each wheel, so you can see cross weight and everything else. Total, it was 700 pounds across the rear axle, and it was 1,100 across the front axle.
Oh my gosh.
So it's 1,800 pounds, which is heavy for what it is, but it's overbuilt. The tubing I used is ridiculously thick. That's what she said? Sorry.
Nope.
So it's 1,800 pounds with the SR. I haven't weighed it since I did the V8, but being it's all aluminum, I don't think it's that much heavier. I still think it's under 2,000 pounds, but I didn't change the weight over the rear wheels except for the fact it's got a radiator there, which isn't much.
Yeah.
So it's still only got 700 pounds over the rear tire. So it doesn't matter what tire I put there, it lights them up more or less than any gear if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And that's still only, we're on 6 pounds of boost. We're barely touching
Are you
it.
gonna put more weight over the rear eventually, or
No.
no spoiler?
Why would I put more weight there? What, you think I'm trying to be Leroy?
Sure. Yeah.
And by the way, this was built before Leroy was.
When was this built? This has to be.
It's 5 years ago, because that's when I started dating Brittany. Was 5 years ago, and I started building this just after I started dating her.
You want to talk at all about Brittany? I know this is a hard month for you, man.
It is a rough month for me.
I know.
It
You're
was.
out of town. I
Yeah.
think that might help that situation a little bit. Keep your mind off of it. But
Yes and no. Essentially, okay. So I dated a beautiful girl named Brittany. I called her Ginge because she was a redhead. But yesterday was our 5-year anniversary. But 11 days ago now was the 2-year anniversary to her passing away. And it seems like every year, the way I found out about it is she died in a motorcycle crash while I was out of town for work. And I flew home and landed in Chicago for a layover, and that's when I got the news. I like cam cars.
I fucking think about that all the time, man.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, the rough part of it is, well, everything about it's rough. I was done. This is the perfect girl. I had nothing else to look for. Every year since then, I've traveled home on that same fucking day that she's passed. The same day I fly into fucking Indianapolis airport every goddamn time. So now, the day it happened, I did it. The year after that, I flew in the same day.
Yeah.
And this year now, I've flown in the same fucking day. And that's 2 different jobs.
Man, I'm sorry to put you on camera doing this, but I want to let you know that if you ever need to talk about that or anything, man, like, I think about that all the time. I don't want to necessarily bring it up. Like, you got me choked. I mean, I know it. That shit's tough.
It's very tough. I've had a lot of dark nights. There's a lot of nights I shouldn't be here. God knows I fucking tried not to be here multiple times.
Yeah.
And still have fucking horrible nights. I just don't have any guns in my house anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It's still bad. The bad thing is when you had perfection, it's hard to find anything else. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to compare, but you just look around and like nobody is her, and they never will be.
Man, I saw the videos where she's riding in this car, and you got the stickers on all your cars.
Yeah, there's a sticker on every car I have, every single one. And the thing is, I probably, as much as I never keep setups or builds for very often. They're constantly changing. This one I'll probably keep, obviously, because I built it. It's not just a car.
Yeah.
But she helped me put the V8 in this car.
Yeah.
Like, there's bolts on this car that she tightened that haven't been touched since then. Stuff that she did. There's welds on this frame that she did. And for that reason, I will probably I'll never part the car or change a swap, probably just because of that. And another thing that I fucking hate is when I was building this car, we just finished the V8 stuff, just got it running, and then I left out of town. And I was so excited for her to be the first one in the car when I got back, and it never happened. I got back and she wasn't here. So that part is rough. Like, that's her seat before anybody else.
Yeah.
That is always her seat.
Yeah.
And it is rough that she never got to take a ride in the car that she helped me build.
Yeah.
It fucking sucks.
Man, she's riding with you, dude. She's riding with you.
I hope. I can only hope.
I don't know how we can turn this back happy.
Turn it back around.
Dude, I've wanted to talk to you about this for so long.
Here's how we'll turn it back around. Tomorrow, as long as it doesn't rain, this thing's probably going 4th gear burnout. I've done 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Last year I did it on the same set of tires that are still running, but I had to drive home on them. So hopefully tomorrow I brought another set. We'll go 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and if I feel like it's there, I'll grab 4th.
Yes.
So that's about the only thing the car's good for currently.
What do you think your wheel speed's going to be at that?
Oh, I mean, over 100. So it's going to be violent. 3rd gear is pretty violent. I mean, the motor and the transmission are solid mounted to the car.
Yeah.
So it shakes. It's not happy about 3rd gear tire spin not moving.
Yeah.
So we'll see. If I feel like it's there, I'll grab 4th.
So you've been talking a lot today about being a fabricator, and obviously you're a fabricator. Ratted drag.
I've been known to weld stuff together.
Ratted drag event. You talked about building drag cars.
I am. I can't help myself because I have so many friends in the cars. I have a friend that's into every different. I have friends in every discipline of the automotive industry. I have people in drag racing. I have friends in drifting. I have friends in autocross and road racing. I have friends that just like to do shows. And I want to have a car to be able to do each one of them with each group of friends I have. But I live in a tiny little house with a 2-car garage and no room for a truck and trailer or anything else.
Yeah.
So down the road, I would like to build a drag car. I'd like to say I would street race it because that's what a lot of my friends do. And I think if you street race, you don't have to have a lot of money to be competitive.
Yeah.
You just have to be able smart and be able to put traction down. So after walking around today, I have like 3 chassis I would think about doing with drag racing. One being an S chassis because I'm a Nissan guy. So it'd be an S chassis, and as much as I hate it, I'd probably do LS. Maybe not. I might do a KA, but probably LS if I'm trying to be competitive. I would either that or a auto DSM I think would be awesome because you would always put the grip down. On a stock motor with like studs, you can make 400 or 500 horsepower and not stress it. I mean, having an auto, you're pretty soft on the drivetrain, and most streets people run on, everybody spins. They're dirty. So if you have all-wheel drive on an automatic and you can be consistently quick, I feel like you could do decent.
Yeah.
third one being my beater. I have a 95 Civic.
Yeah.
With 250,000 miles and stage 3 weight reduction, meaning I live in Indiana and they all rust out. I have no quarter fenders anymore. The quarter panels are gone on this car. But I still have it. It runs, single cam, Suzuki Vitara pistons, like 7-to-1 compression, ethanol studs, all the boost.
So I see an ongoing theme here, which is budget, power, awesome.
Everything is budget power awesome. Yes, it's dollars per smile. At a certain point, you spend a lot of money to go a little bit faster, but it doesn't necessarily make it that much more fun.
Yeah.
Now, for some people who are competitive, that's what it's about. For me, it's not. I want to be a competitor, but I don't necessarily need to be at the front of the field. As long as I'm battling with a handful of people, that's fine with me. So yeah, it's dollars per smile. That's why all my builds are budget. I don't have any build that has more than like $6,000 in it. And it's $6,000 over years. My drift car's got $3,500 maybe in the whole thing. This thing has maybe $4,500 in it, but it's $4,500 and about 1,000 hours of my time over the 4 years I've owned it.
Yeah, so it's
So-
a $100,000 car.
Yeah, I mean, if I charge myself an hourly rate, I can't afford it. But that's how everything is. I'd rather spend $20 and 100 hours than spend $100 and like 20 hours.
Yeah.
Which is probably not a good way to look at it, but it is what it is.
All right, man. Do you think of anything else?
Anything else?
Anything you want to say to anyone else? Anyone you want to call out?
If you're out there and you're having trouble, try to keep your head up. Try to stay around friends.
Yeah.
Try to find whatever little thing you can to look forward to in life, whatever it is. Like, I built this and this helped me keep going to stay busy so you don't sit and think about things. So go out in the garage and just build something. Look, I fucked up all kinds of shit. It's how you learn. You learn to break stuff and you learn to fix it. I started building stuff with a 90 amp flux core Harbor Freight welder. My first car I learned everything on was an S13 with a single cam. I made a turbo manifold out of a fence post. It was galvanized steel. It's poisonous when you weld it. I didn't know this and I did it all inside of a closed garage. But you know what, at the end of the day, PVC piping and all, the thing ran and it hit boost and put a smile on my face. Everybody's gonna start from somewhere. Just, if you get a grinder, try not to cut your fucking fingers off. Make sure you use safety stuff. Just go out there and try to build something. Just have fun. That's all life is. Just try to have fun. Try to smile as much as you can, because one day you might wake up and the person you love will be gone, or you could be gone. Tomorrow is not guaranteed.
One life, man.
You got one life.
Yeah.
Just do what you can with it.
Yeah. All right, man. That's it.
That's it.